Hey everyone, the Black Queen here with an episode of Queen Reacts, and today we are getting to 5 more videos from Sawtooth Waves. Yeah, so I'm trying to do my best to catch up with these, but in the circumstances I'm at, I can only do 5 videos tonight. I was gonna do 7, but then I realized that the other ones were too long, so yeah, I'm just gonna have to cut it down to 5. But yeah, the ones we're doing today are, well, first off, I've missed one of the episodes I was supposed to do the last set, so that one's gonna be the one starting off with. That's solving future Twilight's paradox, and then we start with the G5 ones. So starting off with, so continuing with the future of Earth Ponies, where are the Windigos, the fate of Twilight Sparkle, and then Twilight killed the real Pinkie. So those are some interesting titles. The first one though, solving future Twilight's paradox. Well, yeah, the time travel thing right there. That was a big popular thing, because like, had Twilight not gone back to stress over that, then she wouldn't have, you know, led to that, which brought her back in time anyways. But I think what they were getting at after rewatching the episode was that she was worked up about something else, and then maybe it spiraled out of control, and then she had herself go back in time to but like, she didn't know about the Canterlot, she didn't know about the Star Swirl archives, or the time spell at least, so I'm wondering if he's gonna go into that. But maybe it's not too much of a stretch to guess that along the way she of the first that first timeline, maybe she learned about it and then went back in time to tell herself, hey, don't worry about this or whatever, but it's like it didn't come off right to her, so it's like she's wondering, what are they talking about? So it's like, don't worry about what? Worry about, okay, and then just keeps going like that, and then progressively gets worse, and then that one's like one of the worst ones that shows up. But yeah, that'll be interesting. Anyways, and then the future of Earth Ponies. So obviously this is 10 months ago, so before Terry Tail even happened. So I'm guessing, because like the thumbnail was talking about like that hoof that was that hoof print that was at the end of the movie. So really this is gonna be like a retroactive viewing. So it's like, was he right on this or not? Yeah. And then where are the Windigos? Which is a good question, but I think the just the fact that magic was like completely gone or whatever, like for some reason it was all gone, that even the Windigos, because they were essentially magical beings, they wouldn't have existed because there's no magic. It wasn't just there was no friendship. At least that's my guess. Yeah. Or maybe because like they were separated, they were far apart, so there wasn't conflict. Because I think it's not division, it's the conflict that causes ponies to separate like that. I said that it causes the Windigos to surround them like that. Then again, there was like that apparent battle that happened between the races, so maybe that would have been the case, but I don't know. And then the fate of Twilight Sparkle. I'm guessing like what happened to Twilight after all that, and then the thumbnail is showing the 3 crystals in the movie, so maybe we're gonna talk about that, because that was in like that star thing from like her cutie mark in the movie on the stained glass, so it's very likely that she had something to do with that. And then Twilight killed the real Pinkie Pie, which is probably, well, it's actually 9 minutes long. I thought it was gonna be a throwaway one, but yeah, the mirror pool incident thing. It's like, what if she killed the wrong one? I mean, that's the case in UFP. Yeah, that's enough for the intro. This is gonna be quite a long video, so we should get right into this. Hopefully my camera doesn't run out of room, so I'm gonna have to keep my intervals pretty short. So yeah, I didn't even pull up the episode. I was about to pause the recording. This is solving future Twilight's paradox in 3, 2, 1.
Y'all remember when Twilight went back in time to warn herself not to worry, which caused her to worry in the first place?
Yes.
Which resulted in her going back in time and warning herself not
Yes.
to worry, which caused her to worry in the first place?
I recall.
Make it make sense. Challenge accepted.
Oh, okay. This is what we're doing.
Future Sawtooth here, filling in for past Sawtooth, who doesn't know the answer to this problem, so I'm gonna teach them, and you if you'll stick around for it. So, how did Twilight know there was a time travel spell in the Star-Swirl the Bearded Wing of the Canterlot Archives? Well, future Twilight told her. And how did future Twilight know? Well, when she was past Twilight, future Twilight told her. So she went on to tell her past self, who went on to tell her past self, so on and so forth. But where did this information originally come from? Seemingly nowhere. We're used to events causing other events, but this event caused itself. This is what's known as the bootstrap paradox. Imagine trying to pull yourself up by your boots. You can't, because you're in them. That's what this is, an impossible situation. Those just don't happen, unless Discord is involved, but he was in stone at the time, so there must be more going on here than meets the eye. In order to figure this out, let's do something a little different and jump universes, because another time traveler has been in a very similar situation. The TARDIS is the Doctor's time machine. It's basically a phone box that's bigger on the inside and can materialize anywhere in space and time, which happen to be the names of the shorts I'll be referring to. I highly recommend watching them first. Check out the playlist here or in the description.
Yeah,
but if not, I'll explain that. Here's your spoiler warning. So the TARDIS materialized inside itself.
I've kind of given up trying to
when you go through one door,
this entire series. I started like with the first Doctor, right? And I think I got all the way to the fifth Doctor.
To make things even weirder, the TARDIS exterior drifted forward in time, so that anyone who went through this door came out the other door, but slightly in the past. So instead of like this, it looked like this. Here's where the paradox comes in. The entire TARDIS was about to blow if the Doctor didn't pull the right lever. Problem was, he didn't know which lever. So how did he get out of this situation? Ready for this? The future Doctor came through the door declaring the right lever, so past Doctor pulled that lever and went through the other door, becoming the future Doctor that declared the right lever. I know, my head is spinning too, but here we have a similar situation. Future Doctor knew which lever to pull because when he was past Doctor, Future Doctor told him which lever to pull. But the knowledge itself came from nowhere. Or did it? I suspect there's more to the story, that buried beneath this perfect loop lie multiple previous iterations of this moment that led to the perfect loop. Time travel scenarios like this may settle into nice loops, but that doesn't mean they started out that way. Here's what I mean. I think there was an original iteration of this moment in which no future Doctor came through that door. All the Doctor could do was guess. So he pulls a lever at random. Wrong lever. But before the TARDIS explodes, he goes through the door into the past and tells his past self which lever not to pull. Past Doctor pulls a different lever, also wrong. But before the TARDIS explodes, he goes through the door and tells his past self which levers not to pull. Past Doctor pulls another lever, this time getting it right. So he goes through the door and confidently declares the correct lever, officially starting the loop we know. The knowledge of which lever to pull didn't come out of the void, it arose from the process of elimination across multiple iterations of the same moment. The information came from the hidden timelines beneath the loop that caused
I want to bounce it like a spring.
Now, let's take this idea and apply it to Twilight's situation. Sure, Twilight's only motivation to go back in time was to keep her past self from worrying, but beneath this loop may also tell a different story. There may have been an actual disaster that prompted Twilight to use time travel in the first place. I mean, think of how much was fixed due to Twilight's worrying.
I think it was just the fact that
cracking. Their dam was leaking, and that's just locally. Twilight had her friends disaster-proof all of Equestria. If it weren't for that vague warning from future Twilight, something terrible might have actually gone down, and it may have been enough to push Twilight to desperate measures. Though let's be honest, this is pre-Alicorn Twilight we're talking about here, it wouldn't even take that much. So here's how I think it may have happened. In that original timeline, where Twilight never receives a warning from her future self, there is no disaster proofing, and something goes wrong. This sends Twilight into a tailspin. Maybe she's afraid Celestia will kick her from her studies or something. So in a fit of desperation, she rushes to the Canterlot archives, discovers for herself that there's a time travel spell in the Star-Swirl wing, and casts it. Pause. It's important to note that this Twilight wouldn't have looked like the future Twilight we know. She may have had the funky suit, but she wouldn't have had the crazy mane, bandage, or eye patch, because those she only got by trying to avoid disaster, which this Twilight had no reason to do. You know what she may still have had though? The scar. The one she got from Celestia's lost dog poster. This is because, as far as we can tell, Cerberus would have escaped with or without warning or disaster proofing. Besides the scar, this Twilight may have shown some wear from whatever the actual disaster was, as well as wear from returning Cerberus. This is the Twilight that first went back in time, the one that started this whole mess. So she arrives in the past, but of course with past Twilight's overwhelming curiosity, she can't fit a word in edgewise. This leaves past Twilight with no idea what the coming disaster is. She does everything she can to disaster-proof Equestria, but after returning Cerberus and getting the scar she saw on future Twilight, she worries the disaster is still yet to come. In reality, she already prevented it, but she goes on to try different methods of preventing the disaster anyway, slowly becoming the future Twilight we know for the first time. The only difference between this iteration and the one we all know is that this Twilight doesn't recognize these signs, since the first Twilight to time travel didn't have them. Even still, the end result is the same. She still fears that the disaster can't be prevented and that the only solution is to stop time. This sends her to the Star Swirl wing that future Twilight mentioned. She looks for a time-stopping spell to no avail, and finally, when disaster never strikes, she figures there is nothing to worry about and goes back in time to tell herself just that. But of course, with past Twilight's overwhelming curiosity, she can't fit a word in edgewise, and the loop we know has officially begun. The paradox wasn't a paradox at all. There was originally a disaster worth time traveling over, but in perfect Twilight fashion, her overreaction took the focus and became the subject of the time loop.
But again,
even if I'm not 100% on the details, the main idea is the same. What seems logically impossible on the surface may just be the result of a deeper, unseen process. Did you get all that? I think so. Good, because now it's your turn to explain. What? To who? To you, of course, once you go back in time and become me. Here's a copy of the spell. Wait, do I have to remember everything you just said? It just sort of happens. And how do you know I'll even be able to cast this? Because I was able to when I was you. I guess that makes sense. Okay, what's my first line? Challenge accepted.
Why do you have to do... Okay,
gotcha. Sawtooth, you have got to stop talking to yourself.
Yep.
Starting now, whether it's my clone, my alternate timeline self, or my past or future self, perhaps I shouldn't be making a habit of this. But what do you think of those ideas? Is there more to the time loop than just what we saw? Was there an actual disaster? If you think all this is wrong, don't look at me, I'm just repeating what I heard myself say.
Yep.
I'm guessing some iteration of me came up with this and told it to their past self so they wouldn't have to come up with it themselves.
I'll have to watch the episode again.
Or leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. If you want to support this channel financially, check out my perks at patreon.com/SawtoothWaves. And thank you so much to everyone who already has, especially my Alicorn tier patrons. Equinox3141, Petrolhead02,
I know him, by the way.
Page, Cyanax, Princess Starglow, Allison H, Grim Eclipse, and the winner of this week's Alicorn raffle, the nameless one. Congrats, and thanks again for everyone's support. Y'all helped make this channel possible. I'm Sawtooth Waves, signing out until Friday after next. Brohoof.
Alright, that was a pretty good one. I already said all I needed to say, so we're just gonna get right to the next one, which is the future for the future of Earth Ponies. In 3, 2, 1.
Magic is not what it used to be. Equestria has changed a lot in so many ways, and there's a ton of things I gotta explore for myself. But while I do that, today I'm gonna be focusing on one little detail.
I love this movie so much.
One tiny moment that changes everything.
I don't know if it'll ever... if the series will ever get as good as this was.
So apparently there was no magic in Equestria for the longest time, but with Sunny's push to reunite the tribes and with the help of those strange artifacts, she and her friends were able to bring magic back. Again, much more on that another time, but after all of that, something mysterious happened. 3 foals were racing each other, one from each tribe. As they were running away, a trail of magic was left behind. But not from the Pegasus or the unicorn.
From the Earth Pony.
Earth Pony. A trail of magical hoofprints coming from, supposedly, the least magic of the 3. Now, as a changeling who's usually in an Earth Pony form, I might be a bit biased, but this is exhilarating. Historically, Earth Ponies have been magically neglected. They can't use magic or do any cool
Usually they just have
stuff.
like extra strength,
All they have is
think.
some vague connection to the Earth, which helps them farm or something. I don't think anyone really knows. That's probably why no one even considered that Earth Ponies, just like the other 2, might have their own magical crystal. Because without magic, their lives were pretty much the same. But now it seems like Earth Pony magic is finally becoming significant. We've
Pretty much
never seen anything like this. I can't tell exactly what's going on here, but I feel like Earth Ponies are either reconnecting with an ancient magical ability we've never seen, or developing a new ability for the first time. I don't know which is more exciting. Either way, I'm guessing we can say goodbye to the Nerf Pony. The very fact that we're seeing this world primarily through an Earth Pony's perspective is electrifying. It tells me we're gonna learn firsthand what Earth Ponies have been missing out on, and I couldn't be more thrilled. I know, she becomes an alicorn, or does she? More on that another time.
Sort of.
Trust me, I plan on exploring every little thing this world has to offer.
Sawtooth?
Oh my gosh, Nameless, you haven't aged a day.
Yeah, I don't really follow the same rules you do. Or at least should. No offense, but shouldn't you be dead? You lived during the time of the main six. How are you still alive?
Well, I wasn't exactly alive for most of it. That's what I get for spending so much time in the Everfree.
Cockatrice.
Cockatrice.
Not surprised.
I see.
I thought she was a chicken. I like chickens.
Even less surprised.
Whatever. So the cockatrice turned me into Equestria's prettiest statue, and some crazy amount of time must have passed.
Facts.
But for me, it was just a moment. Next thing I knew,
No.
here I am.
No,
At first,
it had to have been
I
that.
didn't even think I was in Equestria.
That
this
long
place just
that
looks
he would have
and
felt
feels
that.
so foreign. But I guess this is my home now.
Or at least that's
Unless
how Discord,
I don't suppose you can take
said
me
it
back
was.
to my time once I'm done here.
Yeah,
No.
no. Have fun figuring that one out.
Well, what do you think? Are the hoof prints in the grass related to Earth Pony magic?
Also,
what could this
like
mean?
the fall-
And what part of this new world should I explore next? Leave your thoughts in the comments,
the
and don't
leaves.
forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. If you want to support this channel financially, check out my perks at patreon.com/sawtoothwaves. And thank you so much to everyone who already has, especially my Alicorn tier patrons, the Nameless One, Equinox3141, Cameo Shadowness, Darth Sylar 12, Petrolhead02, Solar Scripture, Cyanax, Grim Eclipse, and this video's Alicorn of the Week, Princess Starglow. Congrats, and thanks again for
Nice.
everyone's support. Y'all help make this channel
Still not
possible.
challenging.
I'm Sawtooth Wave, signing out until next time. Bro Hoof.
Alright, that was a pretty good one. What is the next one? Oh, and we know what happens. They get spoilers. They get plants. They get plant powers. Next one is, where are the Windigos? That is a good question. Where are them Windigos? Alright, 3, 2, 1.
One of the most common questions about Equestria's future is, where are the Windigos?
Yep.
Those winter spirits that feed off of hatred between the tribes? With all the hateful stereotypes each tribe had against the others, the Windigos should have had a heyday. And yet, not a single snowflake to be found. Where are the Windigos?
Oh yeah, there was no snow at all in this movie.
At first, the answer to this
Everything was,
question
like,
might
very
seem
summery.
simple. There was no magic, so there'd be
Oh,
no
wait, no,
magic
there is.
spirits. But we don't know to what extent magic was gone, or who all
Except for
lost it.
Heights, so-
According to
Well, there
Tirek,
might
the
have been
Windigos are ancient
at least a bit of
magic,
frost there
and he himself is
in the
ancient,
mountains.
which tells me
Maybe I
that
didn't
Windigos
notice.
are more fundamental to the universe.
Why am I
So,
ranting on
if
that?
anything, I think they were involved in how the tribes separated. I know that sounds like a contradiction, like where's the winter? But hear me out. According to Clover the Clever, who learned from Star Swirl the Bearded, the Windigos feed off of fighting and hatred, becoming colder the more there is. Emphasis on the word fighting. In future Equestria, there was no fighting between the tribes. There was no interaction at all. The tribes were completely isolated from each other, going their whole lives without
they did
so
have, like,
much
a
as
battle
even seeing
again.
a member from another tribe. They surely weren't living in harmony, but it technically wasn't disharmony either.
Yep.
So if the Windigos are like the Sirens and feed on conflict specifically instead of general animus, then it makes sense that we wouldn't see them. There was nothing left for the Windigos to feed on. And later, when there was direct conflict, it was too short-lived and small scale to bring the Windigos back. So if isolation has always been a way to get rid of Windigos, why haven't ponies tried it before? Well,
Because
they
friendship.
have. twice. This is just the first time they've done it successfully. Think back to the founding of Equestria. The tribes weren't getting along and winter was getting worse, so they went their separate ways. Or at least tried. They ended up in the same land, so conflict continued, forcing them to come together or else freeze to death.
Which became
Thankfully,
Equestria.
they came together, but
I know
what
my
if
history.
the tribes had been successful in separating? It would have looked an awful lot like what we saw in future Equestria. No ice, but isolation. The only reason the founders weren't able to do this is because they had limited cartography and technology. But as those things develop, future ponies would be able
Pinkie.
to segregate much more efficiently. The second time the ponies tried isolating was during a time I remember. The three villains had sown seeds of mistrust and the tribes were beginning to successfully segregate. There were
Kinda
still enough
lazily,
negative
though.
interactions across Equestria for the Windigos to feed on, but had things continued, it was only a matter of time before total isolation. But things didn't
Total drama.
continue. The lessons taught in Twilight's School of Friendship knocked some sense back into every creature's minds. The tribes and species lived in harmony for years to come. But history repeats itself. It seems tensions ramped back up. Windigos returned and ponies once again successfully segregated, this time without Twilight's lessons to bring every creature back together. Ponies isolated and the Windigos dispersed, but so did the unity.
Well, what about the
that
epic
gave
battle? That's what I want to
ponies
know.
Their magic. And that's where we found ourselves at the beginning of Sunny's adventure. So, what changed? How did Equestria lose sight of what Twilight fought so hard to establish? What happened to Twilight and her legacy? And what role do the tribe's crystals play in all this? There's still so many unanswered questions, but I've been doing a lot of digging, and I think I'm onto something. It's all connected in some pretty major ways, but that will have to wait. If you're as curious as I am, definitely subscribe and ring the bell to keep up with my findings. In the meantime, what do you think? Why haven't we seen the Windigos? Am I right about the tribe's history? Leave your thoughts in the comments.
I'm still curious
And if you
because
liked
I
the
don't
video,
know. I
like
don't
the
know
video.
if
If you want to support this channel financially, check out my perks at
I'll talk over this portion.
patreon.com/sawtoothwaves. And thank you so much to everyone who already has, especially my Alicorn tier patrons.
It's
the nameless
still
one,
the
Equinox
epic battle
3141,
thing.
Cameo
Unless that
Shadowman,
indeed
Dark
was
Sylar
just like
12, Solar
some
Scripture,
myth.
Cyanax, Princess Starglow, Grim
Or at least-
Eclipse,
I think the
and this
myth
video's
was that
Alicorn of
the
the
Earth
Week,
Ponies
Natural Head 02.
won, 'cause
Congrats,
I
and
doubt-
thanks again
I
for
doubt that.
everyone's support.
I'm
Y'all
guessing
helped make this channel
no
possible.
one
I'm
won,
Sawtooth Waves,
but
signing out until next time.
They
Bro-hoo.
all went their separate ways and then told everyone else, yeah, I won. You should see, you should see the other guy. Yeah, that kind of mentality, that's what I'm guessing. Happened to that. Alright, and then next one is the fate of Twilight Sparkle. Alright. Come on. 3, 2, 1.
Here, chicken. I thought I knew Equestria. Where are you?
Oh,
Pretty well, even.
he's about to. Yep.
Not again. But after being dropped centuries in the future with only traces connecting to the past
see.
I know, I was lost. What the heck happened here? Where did the crystals come from? And most importantly, what happened to Twilight? So many questions,
died.
so few answers. But after piecing things together, I've come to my most shocking conclusion yet.
Get him up. I just came to a conclusion.
As long as I can remember, pivotal moments in history were recorded in stained glass, and it seems that tradition continued at least one more time. In the abandoned station beneath Zephyr Heights, there's a beautiful mural that depicts the three tribes' crystals.
Right.
Unicorn on the left, Pegasus on the
this is
right,
probably before
and
all
what
that
used to
happened.
be
Okay.
Earth Pony in the
was
middle. Above
gonna
them,
say.
in beaming rays of glory, is Twilight Sparkle's cutie mark, complete with the surrounding stars. Take a good look, because when it comes to connecting future Equestria to the past we know, this is all there is. So let's start at the beginning. What's happening here?
There.
At the very least,
Close
this
enough.
mural connects the crystals to Twilight Sparkle. She has something to do with them. I would take it a step further and say this shows Twilight creating the crystals. The way I see it, the crystals are moving away from the common point of origin of Twilight's cutie mark, communicating that they came from her. This seems to be the most straightforward interpretation of the mural, so let's build off of that. The first question that comes to mind is, why would Twilight create the crystals? This is a rather surprising development. I mean, one of the biggest lessons she learned throughout the years is that artifacts like the elements of harmony aren't what's important. No, the magic of friendship is more than enough. If anything, the focus on artifacts was a crutch, a distraction from the magic of friendship. So why would she just turn around and make more distractions? Wouldn't this risk the people of Equestria falling into the same trap she did? The tribes may start focusing on the crystals instead of the unity that powers them. They may separate, all moving closer to their respective crystals, forming their own societies around them, like what we see with the Pegasi and their ruler's crown. And when the crystal's charges inevitably fade, they blame it on each other and keep their distance. This very well may be what happened, and it all be because they were too focused on physical objects. Twilight of all ponies must have seen this coming and considered that risk. And yet, she decided to do it anyway. Which makes you wonder what else she factored into the decision to make the crystals. Yeah. The alternative must have been worse. I don't think this is something she wanted to do, but rather something she felt had to be done. If you're starting to detect a sense of urgency here, I think you're on the right track, because there's been one other situation in which artifacts have been emphasized to be better in a way. And that was during a catastrophe in magic. When Cozy Glow was draining all magic from Equestria, Star Swirl knew that innate magic would be the first thing to go, and that artifacts would last the longest. Sure enough, after unicorn magic had long since failed, artifacts such as the Key of Unfettered Entrance and the EEA Medallion were still functional. According to Chancellor Naysay, Equestria's most potent magic is housed in its artifacts. Something about artifacts makes them more reliable in the long term than innate magic. In other words, artifacts are a way to hold on to magic that would otherwise slip away. With this context, Twilight's focus on artifacts is telling. There must have been a similar crisis in magic, and creating the crystals was Twilight's response. Think about it, ponies didn't used to need artifacts to cast spells or fly. It was just a part of their innate abilities. That must have changed. Ponies were losing their innate magic, and Twilight made the crystals so some magic could last. This is all beginning to make sense, but why didn't she stick around to help ponies stay united?
She died.
Where is Twilight Sparkle? Well, it's time we talk about how she made the crystals.
The question is, how is Twilight Sparkle?
Right? As an alicorn, Twilight contained magic.
She must have sacrificed herself to make it.
It's not at all surprising that she'd be able to create such artifacts, but at what cost? The crystals can power up every pony, so what if Twilight had to sacrifice everything? This is where the evidence points. Think about how the creation of the crystals is depicted. The reason Twilight herself isn't on the mural. At first, I thought her cutie mark was a symbolic representation of her, but then it hit me. Mother of Celestia, this is what the event literally looked like. Twilight's cutie mark was in the sky, and we have seen this before.
Oh yeah.
She became an alicorn. It was a moment of intense change, an enormous magical transformation, and the mural shows the same thing happening, but in reverse. Twilight Sparkle unbecame an alicorn. That's the missing piece in all of this. In an epic display of selflessness, she separated her alicorn magic back into its Earth Pony, Pegasus, and Unicorn components, storing them in each of the crystals.
And then she died.
Safe in the artifacts, Twilight's magic would be able to survive the crisis, and ponies could draw upon it for years to come. That's what the mural depicts. Twilight sacrificing her alicornhood so her people could still have magic. A decision made out of duty and at great cost. And just like that, her rule ended the same way it began, with a sparkle in the twilight sky, ultimately fulfilling her destiny.
That'd be interesting.
Without the alicorn magic that increased her lifespan, Twilight lived out the rest of her natural days as a mortal. The reason she's not around today. But the mural in the station shows us that Twilight's sacrifice was widely recognized and honored. Of course, most of Equestria would eventually forget her legacy, but the few that remembered passed it down from generation to generation in hopes that one day ponykind would be able to restore Twilight's vision of unity.
We need to find out what this dad is all about.
That's exactly what Argyle inspired in Sunny Star Scout. Though it's quite the dramatic story, I think it lines up best with the information we know. Artifacts are most useful during magic emergencies. Ponies now need artifacts to use magic. Twilight is somehow connected to those artifacts. She contains the same kind of magic as them, and the mural depicts the same sight that occurred last time Twilight transformed. It all tells the story of desperate times and desperate measures, of tough calls and of sacrifice. Or at least that's how I see it. I'm always learning new things and discovering more all the time, so definitely subscribe and ring the bell to keep up with it all. But in the meantime, what do you think? Am I right about what happened to Twilight? What does the mural depict? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and if you liked the video, like the video. If you want to support this channel financially, check out my perks at patreon.com/sawtoothwaves. And thank you so much to everyone who already has, especially my Alicorn tier patrons. The Nameless One, Equinox3141, Cameo Shadowness, Darth Sylar 12, Petrolhead02, Cyanax, Princess Starglow, Grimaclips, and this video's Alicorn of the Week, Solar Scripture. Congrats, and thanks again for everyone's support. Y'all helped make this channel possible. I'm Sawtooth Wave, signing out until next time. Brohoo!
Alright. That was a good one. And next we are... This is the last one, right? I think, right? Yeah. Twilight killed Pinkie. Alright. Oh, Twilight, how could you? Still better than Apple Dash, by the way. 3, 2, 1. Many moons ago.
It's time they know the truth. About what? The truth about Pinkie Pie.
It's upside down. I saw that.
I'm Sawtooth Waves, signing out until next Friday. Brohoof! We meet again.
Oh, does he always do that with like the different seasons?
Have you finally decided to get revenge on me for abandoning you at the mirror pool?
Because like, that looked like it was either spring or summer.
Quite the contrary. I've come to enlighten you. Oh? Yes. Pinkie Pie has secretly been dead for years. This should be good. It all comes down to one suspicious line of dialogue.
Okay, yeah, that's right,
When Starlight was showing Sunburst the sights of
Wave.
Ponyville, she took him to the mirror pool. Looking into the pool, Sunburst queried, and I quote, "So Pinkie Pie just dove in and made copies of herself." To which Starlight replied, and I quote, However, this simply cannot be the case. Observe the cloning in action. As you can see, the originals never enter the pool. They merely pull their clones out of it. Pinkie Prime, the one that started it all, ne'er even touched the water.
Yes, Pinkie Prime!
Yeah, she did. I distinctly remember seeing her go in. Ha! A common misconception. Watch closely, and do pay attention this time. As Pinkie recites the rhyme, we switch to her reflection's perspective. After stepping through the surface, the reflection runs off carelessly looking for fun, while the Pinkie that stood outside the pool continues talking as before. It is indeed the clones that step through the pool, not the originals. Do you know what this means, Prime? That you take these things too seriously? Precisely.
What do you think this channel is?
It means the original Pinkie is gone, and the Pinkie that survived Twilight's massacre was one of the clones. I don't follow.
Yeah, I don't either.
It seems I'll have to simplify my language for
Fuck
an individual.
You!
Your
Sawtooth Waves have more
that
edge
the
to them
originals
anyways.
stay on land while the clones pass through the pool. Is this at least a point upon which we can agree? That seems to be the case, yeah. So why then does Sunburst tell of Pinkie diving in?
Talking about the actual
The
sound
Pinkies
waves,
were the
but
only
never
ones
mind.
present when the cloning took place. Therefore, the story of what happened must have come from one of them, which means...
So...
It appears I'll need some help here. Cosine? No, Celestia, there's two of you. Meet my assistant, Cosine Waves. The pleasure's mine, I'm sure. And you're both British. Wait, I thought you were against making clones.
British.
Oh, but one must be responsible about
With the mustache,
crime.
too.
I may be a clone of you, but Cosine here is a clone of moi. That's right. What kind of a name is Cosine anyway? Or would you rather me call them Square Waves?
Yeah.
Or triangle wave. Okay, good
Square
point.
waves
Let's
take,
not go on a tangent here, Prime. I'm
take,
trying to
too
prove
much
to you that the
voltage.
Pinkie we knew is history,
Not voltage,
and the Pinkie we know is
well,
one of
maybe
us.
voltage. It takes
a
a-
clone. Good luck with that. Now,
Too much
let's
wear
say
on the speakers.
I'm the original Pinkie Pie, and Cosine here is one of Pinkie's clones. Quite.
Then again,
If
there's
the original
really
Pinkie
no such
truly
thing as a
survived,
square
as every
wave,
creature seems to believe,
'cause
how
there's
would
always
she tell the story? Ask me.
It's just
how the
hard to
cloning
see it,
happened.
but there's going to be
How
a
did the
diagonal.
cloning happen? I'm glad you asked. I pulled my reflection
slant
out of
to
the
the
pool,
wave.
of course. Now, if Pinkie's clone
Simply starting the
survived,
voltage up
how
high
would
is
she
impossible.
tell the story? Go ahead, ask Cosine
Yes, I
how the
went to school
cloning
for this.
happened. How did the cloning happen? I dove into the pool, of course, and this right and honorable gentleman pulled me out the other side. And according to Sunburst, that's exactly what Pinkie did. Do you see now? The original Pinkie never once touched the pool, which means the established story didn't come from the original Pinkie. It was told from a clone's perspective, which means that the Pinkie that survived to tell it was herself a clone. Yes. All this time, one of the most powerful ponies
still
in
not following.
Equestria has been one of us. We have representation in the highest levels of government, and no pony realizes it. That will be all, Cosine. You are dismissed. Right. Cheerio, mate. Okay, a few ponies have been sloppy with the wordage. So what? It's well established that clones don't have the original's memories. Pinkie had to teach the other clones her friends' names for Celestia's sake. And yet, the Pinkie that survived was able to reminisce on parties she threw long before the cloning incident. So she couldn't have been a clone. End of story. Not necessarily. This could be the case of temporary amnesia. Perhaps after some time, all of her memories came back.
No.
Do you have any memories from my life? Not yet,
Yeah.
but in time we'll see what... That's what I thought. Or
Yeah.
perhaps only one Pinkie at a time can contain memories. So when the original Pinkie was extinguished, all of her memories went into that surviving clone.
This is why sine
Or
waves are
just
overrated.
maybe the original Pinkie survived. You're grasping at straws here. There was a test to filter out the clones after all. But was it a good test, Prime?
In the Hall of
Watching
Mountain
paint
King.
dry? Killing any Pinkie that
Modest
gets
Mizzowski.
distracted? Is it not in Pinkie's nature to be easily distracted during important moments, even when much is on the line? Especially when much is on the line? Twilight was basically forcing a group of ponies with ADHD to sit still lest they perish. 'Twas barbaric.
Okay.
No better than a saw game. No pun intended. I get your
Oh, I
point.
get it.
Given enough
Okay.
time, I don't think any Pinkie could survive that.
Sawtooth.
Precisely. It's only a matter of who survives the longest. And this doesn't just test for will to live. Nay, other factors must be taken into account,
Horses.
such as proximity to any given distraction, personal moments of weakness. Clearly, all the clones wanted to live, and that's why many made it so
The
far
ear
into the
wiggle.
test despite all odds, only to fall short near the end. And it's not inconceivable that the original Pinkie would be of those to succumb to her very nature.
Yeah,
Indeed,
I
this is
still don't see
confirmed to
how
be the
that
case,
was
as Sunburst told the story from
the,
a clone's perspective, a story that only could have come
I don't
from
know,
surviving Pinkie.
Even
Though
the
death
the
of the
real Pinkie
original
could have
Pinkie
fallen for
is
that.
regrettable.
But,
we must celebrate the clone that lives on, as well as mourn the clones that weren't so fortunate. I'm
Nah.
still not convinced.
They weren't
Sunburst
real
could have just
souls.
got it backwards and Starlight not know any better to correct him. But even if you're right, what difference does it make? Pinkie seems to be Pinkie regardless. Both outcomes are functionally the same. Here's the difference, Prime. Twilight Sparkle faced no consequences for the death of the clones. But if she was found guilty of the original Pinkie's death, she would finally face the sentence she deserves. That's actually brilliant. I knew you'd see the light, Prime.
But it's
All we
still
need
not
is for the
likely.
surviving Pinkie to testify on her experience and whether she was pulled out of the pool. A single yes would drag Twilight's
Turnabout.
perfect reputation into the ground. No more Purple Pony Princess. And that's just the beginning. Bringing the clone massacre into the public eye will raise awareness of
Purple
clones'
Smart, you
rights, and
murderer.
we may yet become a protected category. I trust you support my cause. You know what? I guess I do. Excellent. I'm glad we at last share the same vision, Prime. Perhaps you aren't as dim-witted as the
I
others
still
say.
don't think so,
Thanks.
though.
Wait a second. Now, if you'll be so kind as to excuse me, there's much work to be done.
Maybe he skipped
Au revoir,
over it,
Prime.
but or maybe
look
I skipped
forward
over it
to our
or
next
didn't notice,
chat.
but
There never was a next chat. Was that a chicken? I was a statue for the rest of sines and cosines' lives. But I've been looking around, and I think they did alright without me. If I'm not mistaken, they stopped using my Earth Pony look and started living as out-and-out changelings. And clones, of course. They went on to build and maintain the greatest trans-equestrian station of that time, where statues dedicated to them stand to this day. So I guess we all became statues. It doesn't seem they were able to take Twilight down, though in hindsight,
were those
for the
ponies
better.
or was that
But
were those
what do you
changelings?
think? Was Sign right about our Pinkie
This
being a
is where
clone?
the
Why or why
magic
not? Leave your thoughts in
I
the
still love that
comments,
song
and
so
don't
much.
forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. If you
It
want to
still
support
makes me
this channel
cry.
financially, check out my perks at patreon.com/sawtoothwaves. And thank you so much to everyone who already has, especially my Alicorn tier patrons. The Nameless One, Equinox3141, Cameo Shadowness, Darth Sylar 12, Solar Scripture, Petrolhead02, Cyanax, Princess Starglow, Grim Eclipse, Torn, Color Shine, and this video's Alicorn of the Week, Crimson Moon. Congrats, and
there's
thanks
more.
again for everyone's support. Y'all help make this channel possible. I'm Sawtooth Waves signing out until Friday after next. Brohoo!
Alright. Okay. And yeah, that was the last one. Yeah. A few of these were pretty interesting. Then again, I think I was also kind of on point for most of these. Like the Twilight paradox thing. I kind of figured that's how it was. Again, actually, I think I might just pull up the beginning of that episode for a bit.
The problem is I just finished planning my schedule for the month, but I forgot to leave time to plan for next month. Don't you see? There's no time in my schedule to put together another schedule.
So at the beginning of the episode, she was worried about her schedule planning or something like that. So my guess is that her spending so much time worrying about the schedules might have caused her to miss something else or so. So she went back in time to tell her future self to not worry about that, but she got cut off. And then so the only words were "don't worry," and then it led up to that that zigzag thing that he was talking about. That's my guess on that. But yeah, apart from that, this is a great set. Not much else to say, so if you enjoyed the commentary, go back to the state of a nice day, and as always, goodbye.